Hi, hello everyone. I'm sorry for the delay, some technical problems here, but we're going to start. This is the Keynote session number 3 with Bilal Succar. Just some moments here. This is our last day. I take this opportunity to thank you all. Okay, let's talk about Bilal. I've known Bilal Succar for many years now, and I have had the honor to be on his PhD thesis examining committee back in, I can't remember when. But Bilal has this unique combination of an analytic mind and this synthesis ability, together with organizational and visual design skills, making him an ideal person to, firstly, to develop and publicize the BIM framework, and now to expand that effort into something which a much bigger scope and general usefulness, both to companies and governments. This great initiative is what we'll talk about now. Now a more formal introduction to him. Dr. Bilal Succar is a strategic BIM consultant with extensive experience in performance assessment and improvement. He is a highly cited researcher in the fields of competence-based learning and macro BIM policy development. Between 1994 and 2004, Bilal worked as a designer, team leader, and site manager on major contracts in Australia and in the Middle East, before focusing his attention on digital innovation, performance assessment, and process improvement. In 2004, he established Change Agents AAC, an open innovation BIM consultancy. In 2009, Change Agents developed BIM Excellence, a unique research-based method for assessing, benchmarking, and improving the competency of individuals, capability of organizations, and compatibility of project teams. This was followed in 2016 by the not-for-profit BIM Excellence Initiative, which includes numerous esteemed academics and consultants from across the world. The BIM E initiative includes many projects such as the BIM Dictionary, Macro BIM Adoption, BIM Competency, and Integrated Information Platform projects. Academically, Bilal studied business administration, design, and arts before undertaking postgraduate studies in organizational behavior and human resource management. In 2013, he completed his PhD, focusing on BIM performance assessment at the University of Newcastle, Australia. Bilal published many peer-reviewed, award-winning articles and are amongst the highest cited in the BIM domain. Dr. Succar participated in industry-wide initiatives, including the Australian CRCCI National Guidelines for Digital Modeling in 2008, and in the AIACA BIM Education Working Group. Bilal delivered many keynote speeches, lectures, and workshops around the world, including in New Zealand, US, UK, China, Malaysia, Qatar, Hong Kong, Singapore, Spain, Italy, Chile, and Brazil. Bilal, welcome. The stage is yours.
Oh, thank you, Eduardo. And sorry all for being late. It's always a pleasure to be presented by my dear friend Eduardo, or some of you know him as Toledo. Yes, he did review my PhD thesis. I don't know how many errors he discovered. So thank you again, Eduardo. You've always been my go-to person when something really needs to be forensically analyzed. And thank you for the invitation to present today. I was enjoying the chat, but maybe now we could jump into PowerPoint. Maybe if you don't mind, if you can share my screen. Oops. Okay. All good. Just to take because I can't see StreamYard here. All good. Continue.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So my apologies. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead. Today's session has a title called Facilitating Digital Transformation Through a Common Knowledge Sharing Model, an International Community Effort. There's so much to cover about this topic, and it's really impossible to summarize it in 40 minutes, 60 minutes even. And I will put some links for people who are interested in these topics to later watch a few videos which we recorded as part of our first Excellence seminar less than a month ago. So it's still fresh. So this is the synopsis of the presentation. I'm going to introduce the BIMI initiative or BIM Excellence initiative, its structures, projects, and community. But in this presentation, I'm going to be focusing as much as possible on the knowledge structures because, this is an academic presentation. Of course, I need to focus on conceptual issues, but also because there's so many other presentations that people attending could go back to look at the projects, their interconnectedness, the volunteers, etc. I'll just briefly touch upon the importance of community-based research activities. I mean, why is this community needed and similar communities are needed? I'm hoping that by the end of today's session and maybe our discussion, you will see that there is a place for this type of work. And at the end, I will invite like-minded researchers and to join, and if not join, to create something similar or better. And because I truly believe that through community-based work, we can do a lot more of independent research that is not really that could complement what's happening currently in our industry and academia. So it's 5 parts. So first part would be quick introduction to the initiative, then the knowledge structures which enable the initiative to operate, very quick introduction to projects and deliverables, and also a quick introduction to the community and network, and some limitations and discussions, mostly challenges that something like the BIMI initiative community faces and tries to address. So first introduction, when we say BIMI initiative, of course, it's Building Information Modeling Excellence Initiative, BIMI initiative for short. It's a very long name. And when we use the term BIM, again, just as a reminder, it is the broadest ever definition you could find about BIM. It is about the current expression of digital innovation across the built environment. It is just a language of discussing this digital transformation process innovation. If you want another academic definition, if you wish, it's all the technologies, processes, and policies that enable everything, design, construction, operation. So it includes every term that you can think of when it comes to digital transformation within the built environment. Quite broad, intentionally broad, because it will have a longer shelf life, and you can see from the past month, let's say less than a year, there's new terms that come and position itself as that key term that everyone needs to research under its umbrella. So really, it's very important to keep terms as broad as possible. So initiative is a not-for-profit knowledge generation effort. So it's not-for-profit. It's led by volunteer researchers, and when I'm using the term researcher here, it means people from both academia and industry. There's really excellent researchers that don't work in academia, as we all know. And to qualify as a researcher under the BIMI initiative, you need to be a specialist and adopt rigorous means in developing your research deliverables and in announcing your results and being open and transparent about your method and output. It is a community-led. You'll see it's lots of people involved. It's kind of an alternative to what we hear, coming from authorities top down, telling us that this is how you should think about these topics. This is the standards you should follow. This is the policies you should adopt. It is kind of a complementary approach, saying it's important to also think about it bottom up, if we can use that term, and offer something that comes from industry up to policy. It's a kind of coherent response. This is the whole intention behind this type of work is so it's coherent. It is interconnected. We'll see. Meaning maybe you find the discussion leading in ways that is incoherent, but this is the effort is always renewing or being renewed to keep the coherence and interconnectedness of all the research within the initiative. It is partially supported by commercial organizations. I will acknowledge them at the end. And this is very important for developing tools, meaning typically we don't need much financial support, and we try to do work that doesn't really need financial support as much as possible, rely on volunteers and their efforts. But when developing online tools, we need to hire contractors, back-end developers, front-end developers, more about, it's all about software development and maintenance. What are the deliverables? We have static and, deliverables like matrices and lists, or macro assessments, reports. I'll go through them in a little more detail later on. A very important output is modular workflows for process engineering and re-engineering, and open access tools. And we could have a discussion why open access, not open source. So what are the industry challenges that the Vimeo initiative is trying to address, to answer, to provide some kind of discussion about? And we can go through tens, if not hundreds, of challenges, but things that need highlighting in this presentation is that we all know that our industry, in the built environment, the construction industry, is lagging behind. Okay, there's hundreds of reasons. I would say one of the most important one is the disintegration of the supply chain, or lack of integration. There are pressures to increase productivity, meaning all other industries are increasing their productivity. Also, we could discuss whether productivity in the construction industry has stagnated or not. In my view, it is improving, but it's not improving as fast as other industries. There are conflicts when trying to marry, combine, align emerging tools, and there's so many emerging tools and technologies with legacy processes. And this is really one of the main challenges faced, is that we have all these new things, all these beautiful tools, beautiful approaches, and then we try to put them in a legacy process. Like let's try to understand these new digital tools and workflows, but rather than trying to adopt new processes that would benefit from these emerging tools, we try to box them into our legacy processes and put them into static standards, which take years to develop and many years to change. So there are missed opportunities for engaging other researchers from outside academia, and this is very important. This has been, I've always been, I've worked in academia, but and many of us have worked in academia and worked in industry, and we all know that somehow we speak different type of language, which prevents us from benefiting from each other. So Vimeo initiative tries to address this challenge in multiple ways, and hopefully I'll be able to cover many of them. Another challenge is there's a lack of competency in digital means and methods, and we need to address this urgently. So it's not just about adopting new tools, and we've seen that even when adopting new tools and workflows, and if there's not enough diffusion of the right competencies, there are significant risks faced by our industry. So to meet some of these challenges, we have to do research, of course, but it's not just enough to do research. We have to develop. We have to develop solutions. We have to test these solutions, continuously improve them. So I'm going to present the BIM Excellence Initiative approach, the BIMI approach. Hopefully, you'll see that we're trying to think about these problems in a fresh way. Maybe it's not an original way. I don't know. I'm trying to think about all these problems and try to connect them with solutions and try to keep these solutions connected. So these challenges, the BIM Excellence Initiative, the BIM initiative, will try to address by focusing on what's common. Okay, so there's lots of challenges faced by our industry, by academia, industry in different jurisdictions, and we can focus on what's unique in each country or in each region, or we can focus on what's common. The BIM initiative focuses on what's common. This is very important, and this is strategically important because if we could address what's common, that would be a major win for all. If we only focus on what's local, what's unique, then that would be, of course, benefit to what's local and what's unique, but it's not won't be of benefit to all. We'll focus on complementarity. As we know, experts like to work in isolation. It's that's their. I could, if I label myself as an expert, I would say that I'd love to work alone. That's it's so enjoyable to work alone, but there's not much impact in working alone. There's not much benefit to the community, to the industry in working alone. So we need to attract these experts and give them something to work together on, and allow them to deliver common solutions. Flexibility, emphasis on process standardization is, let me say, it's rampant at the moment in our discussions. It's all about standardizing this, standardizing that. And I don't here mean standardizing componentry or specifications of products. I mean trying to standardize processes, steps that people take to exchange information, to share knowledge, etc. There's a lot of focus on standardization, which I think is really counterintuitive and a big risk to process innovation. Of course, we need both standardization and we need flexibility in adopting new processes, but we would like, as an initiative, to err on the side of flexibility and innovation, because there's so much effort by others to focus on standardization. Complexity, continuously, increase, even with the adoption of what people consider to be intuitive tools. It's just, whether using, BIM tools and workflows, or any kind of combination of BIM, GIS, and PLM, and you can add hundreds of other terms on top. There's lots of complexity. And it's not really being reduced by all this. So we need to focus on finding ways to reduce that complexity. And our response is modularity. How we could reduce that complexity by splitting it into complicated pieces that people could adapt, adopt, and connect. Independence, many of you probably will see that there's so much research now being driven by policy, like national policy, whether here in Australia and Europe, many other places. And there is a place, a very important place, for independent research, which is not driven by that, and try to identify solutions and push them forward that could complement this research, which is driven by policy or driven by the policy of funding institutions. One important challenge is that typical research routes are quite slow. If you want to publish anything, it takes months. I've once published a peer-reviewed chapter, and it took more than 18 months, 20 months. And that's ridiculous, especially in the topics that we cover. So there is a need for more speed with keeping the rigor, but also there's a need for scale. You need to find ways to scale our rigorous research and cover areas faster because of the speed of digital transformation. We need to, if not, move at the same speed, we have to a little bit faster as well. So what's the mission of the Vimeo initiative is to accelerate digital transformation. Okay, so that's really the mission, how to accelerate the digital transformation of the construction industry and the built environment. The vision, because many people could have the same mission, many people would like to accelerate, this, or many people have the same mission to go to Mars, etc. But different organizations, different individuals would have different vision. Our vision is to demonstrate new ways of thinking. We have these problems that we all know, that we could identify new ones, but we want not only to offer solutions, we want to demonstrate new ways of finding solutions. And if we go a little bit into more details, the goals is to help practitioners to improve their digital competence. Here, the focus is on practitioners, as is the first goal, to focus on the individual. To assist organizations, of course, to adopt and adapt and to customize and to change the available solutions to suit them so that they can be more productive. And to support policymakers, and this is very important, in developing the strategies, the roadmaps, etc., that will encourage digital diffusion across whole markets. And this is part of the research at scale agenda, if you wish. So in discussing Vimeo initiative, it has several components, and I'm going to be covering one more than the other two. The first component is this common knowledge structure, and I'll cover it in detail. And then there's projects. So we've got a structure, and then this structure is needed to deliver projects which has their own deliverables, and a community of researchers, an international community of researchers. So today I'm going to be focusing on knowledge structures, a little bit on projects, and a little bit on the community. So when we're discussing knowledge structure for the Vimeo initiative, it could be summarized in this visual model. There's a lot in it, and I'll try to break it into small pieces, hopefully to connect it as much as I can. But you could see here that we have something called foundations or knowledge foundations, something called knowledge blocks, knowledge tools, knowledge workflows, and knowledge views. So I'm just going to cover them one by one. So when we're discussing Vimeo initiative deliverables that I mentioned, all these different tools and resources and workflows, etc., these can only be delivered through research and starting with conceptual research. And that conceptual research is the foundation that we build on everything else. And this is very important in order to keep the connectivity between these different tools, as you will see, and different projects and different people working, volunteers. And one major difference between what we do and others potentially do is that we don't have solid committee structures. We don't have like chapters and committees and subcommittees and I don't know what, but we focus our efforts around the knowledge foundations, the conceptual structure. So these are the connecting skeletal that we all work around. So when we say knowledge foundations, there's multiple ways of looking at them. So I'm just gonna use 5 things. I'm gonna describe, I have to go a little bit back to basics, and because I'm conscious that there will be lots of research, early career researchers, students who may be interested in conceptual modeling, and maybe this would be of benefit to them. So we have something called this is based on actually my PhD thesis, the conceptual hierarchy. Then there's the conceptual glue that connects them. There's how we structure these new concepts, how you generate them, and the library that combines them. So based on these knowledge foundations, then we can create something called knowledge blocks, and then tools and flows. So in this section, I'm looking at the conceptual basis, and I'm trying as much as I can to explain it in detail. So when we're discussing knowledge foundations, we have a conceptual hierarchy. So everything that you need to build, whether it is a template, whether it's an online tool, etc., it must start with a term and its description. Must start with a set of terms and the description, a dictionary of sorts. And then these terms need to be combined together into sets of classifications, which are a combination of terms using, one concept that combines them. And by the way, I've on the left of the screen, I've placed lots of references for research students to follow later on. Some of them will have links, some of them will not. But I'm hoping if you're interested, you can follow these links and learn about these a little bit in more detail. So after a dictionary, after terms and the descriptions, and we combine them into classifications, which is a higher order kind of concept, meaning between a term and its description and the classification of terms and concepts is an increase in richness of meaning, of knowledge through these classifications. You can add then multiple classifications and combine them through multiple concepts, and you get a taxonomy, and you go up from there. So you go from taxonomies to models, which will include different terms for sure. Even the basic Venn diagram is really kind of a classification with three things. But if you delve deeper, you'll find it's a taxonomy as well. So for example, here, this Venn diagram will have something called players, deliverables, and requirements. And then within players, you have three types. And within deliverables, you have three types, etc. And at the top of this conceptual hierarchy, you have frameworks. And in there's lots of definitions of frameworks, but let's say that it's the way I use it personally, and we use it in the initiative, is that it's a combination of different models. So really, it's the richest conceptual structure preceding a theory. We're not going to go into theories because that will take us outside the areas which is practicable, which people from industry would understand and could react to. So we stop at frameworks, which is a combination of models, taxonomies, classifications, and dictionaries. Of course, there's lots of theories underlying all this type of work. And you will find, if you are, you've seen before some of the presentations, that something like actor network theory, systems thinking, etc. Lots of theories are empowering this type of work. Now, connecting everything, the glue, and this is really where the structure stops, and to glue everything, to glue these terms and with the classifications, with the taxonomies, with the models, with the frameworks, we have a conceptual ontology. And if many of us familiar with the term ontology, but there's many types of ontologies, and what we're discussing here is a conceptual ontology, an ontology that connects concepts that eventually could be turned into a formal ontology, for semantic web, etc. But the focus first is on the conceptual ontology, connecting concepts, discussing topics at the knowledge layer level. Once we could understand the problem at that level, we probably be able to have a better grasp of how to solve it at the information and data layers or levels. So when we say ontology, the conceptual BIM ontology has, concepts, relations, attributes, and knowledge sets. You would see there's a link. You can follow that. And this is continuously changing. This has been the most changing aspect of, the work. It has never stopped changing, and this will continue to change. I don't know if you look at the version history within the document, we'll see it's maybe 3 pages now. Now, so other than we have the hierarchy and the glue, and this is to introduce that when we are building anything, as I said, when we're building tools, we need lots of terms, classifications, taxonomies, models, and frameworks, and then these are connected. As discussed, you could have a classification has lots of terms, and then taxonomy multiple classifications. Then you have models and frameworks, but these are fun to do, of course. But if we want to benefit the industry and accelerate digital transformation, we really have to deliver tools These tools need to be intuitive, usable, hopefully open, and if we're really lucky, free. But we cannot deliver tools. We cannot deliver anything that is robust without first understanding the terminology needed, defining the terms needed, building our classifications and taxonomies, and trying to understand the problems and solving them through models like flows, activity flows, etc. And of course, depending on the types of tools we're discussing, some tools will require a really high-level framework, as you will see in our project for integrated information platform. It required the development and release publication of a high-level framework, because without that framework, we cannot really get to the tool. It's going to be it will be dead on arrival, let's say. So in addition to the structuring, which is really connecting all these terms and classifications and taxonomies, etc., and to build tools, but we have to understand, where do these concepts come from anyway? When we say a model or a framework, and really, there's two things that we could discuss. Meaning, it's a combination of two things: design science research cycles, which many of you would be familiar with, and really my utmost favorite is the no research cycle by Meredith. And by combining these two, we could not only generate new concepts and test them. We could describe them, we could explain them, we could test them according to Meredith, but also we could get, we could understand through the design science research what is needed by the industry, by the work environment, and to build a knowledge base which could be reused. And this is combined in a model which was released in the latest paper I've written with my colleague Eric Poirier. Saying if we this is a combination of both cycles. So if we have these conceptual solutions that needed, like there is a need, there's a gap to cover. Where do these come from? There is a push and a pull from the work environment. There is problems, challenges that need to be solved. And if it's a new problem or an old problem that hasn't been solved yet, we really need to understand conceptually what's happening and try to model that in order to explain it, and to first describe it and explain it, and at the same time, as we are working with getting this push and pull from the work environment, and because we don't really start from a blank slate, we have done work before. There's a knowledge base of previous conceptual structures, previous models, previous frameworks, previous taxonomies and terminology, whether by a small group of researchers or by the research community at large, within the built environment, or from other disciplines. We could also, there's a push and pull that, okay, I need the new conceptual solution, but I'm not going to be building it from nothing, not from zero. It's going to be coming from a previous conceptual solution, from previous concept, from previous model, and adapted to the new problem. We're trying to deliver a better solution, and through that, there is a in the middle here, there is the research cycle of continuous explaining, description, explaining, and testing that allows us to generate new concepts. And through these new concepts, we could feed back into the work environment, and really importantly for the Vimeo initiative, to feed it back into the knowledge base so it could be reused. So if you want, while this is not surprising or nothing new here, what could be new is the reusability of the concepts. And you will notice that many concepts that have been developed 10 years ago, 15 years ago by multiple people are being reused, especially if they have been developed in a certain structure that allow their reuse. So, if one delivers a framework or a model directly like that without explaining the taxonomies, the classifications, the terminology underneath it, and offering these on their own as valid, then that framework is good, of course, or could be good, but it could be difficult to reuse it. But if it was made of smaller pieces which are on their own, they stand on their own feet, then these pieces could be reused and to develop new frameworks or new models or deliver tools. And yeah, I'm not going to explain this diagram. It's too small for the screen, to be honest. It's just, you could read about it in the resources, a link here that is that when delivering tools, like at the left side here, the product library, which is really tools and resources delivered by the initiative, we start on, for knowledge objects. We have a 5-6 frameworks. We have 50-60 models which stand on their own. We have 100 taxonomy and maybe I don't know many hundreds of classifications, whether it is and sorry, many hundreds of terms which we could recombine into new classifications and combine into new models, and then when these models have been tested, they could be fed into tools and templates and saved into the library for reuse. So this has been a quick explanation of the foundations, like guiding the Vimeo initiative's deliverables. It's all about conceptual hierarchies and structuring and reusing of concepts. But if the work stopped there, really we could not do any tools of benefit to industry. It's really high level. So we do need to bring these high level concepts down a bit in order to use them and reuse them. And this is the, if you want, the principle behind developing something called the knowledge blocks. So knowledge blocks are simplification of conceptual pieces into smaller parts which are modular and could be combined. And I will do this first at the conceptual level and then at the practical level and combined into tools. And I'll just explain this, a couple of them. So there's many of these knowledge blocks, which is again a kind of a simplification of all the conceptual hierarchies and links from the foundations into smaller pieces. So for example, we have dictionary items, something called competency items, something called model use, something called system unit. Less than 10 of these blocks that we could define and connect. And I'm just gonna, introduce a couple. So one block, foundational block, if you remember from the hierarchy, at the bottom of the conceptual hierarchy, we have the dictionaries. So explaining this as a block, within a dictionary, we could have something called an item, a dictionary item, which is the way we do it typically is in English. We use that as a canonical language. And then inside, to define a term, we have lots of fields. If you want to, we have the block includes a title, which is the term. It could be any term you can think of. A digital twin, for example. You could say building information modeling. You could say lean construction, etc. And within that block, there's lots of data and metadata term, the acronym, the summary description, the plural terms to search through the plural forms, the languages for translation, labels, etc., etc., etc. So here we have just an explanation of a single instance of a dictionary item. A dictionary item is kind of a content unit, that we could evaluate on its own. We could look at it, say, does this make sense? Does this term and description and synonyms and etc. make sense? And then we could combine it with other things in order to create classification and taxonomies, etc. But first, that building block, that knowledge block, that the smallest knowledge block need to be well defined and semantically connected. Another block we refer to as a model use. Model use is a kind of there's a a kind of a taxonomy called information uses, and inside information uses there is a model use and document use and data use. you can go online and you will find some information about that. But as a block, a model use also has its own fields and categories, etc. And I've just highlighted a couple of things which, when you're defining a model use, what's a model use? It is what kind of information you can expect to generate from using 3D digital models. Okay, so when we're discussing information, and you'll see this in the latest framework published, information could be represented through models, or could be represented through documents or data, or a combination. But in order to reduce complexity, you cannot just say let's share information. You have to define how it's represented, okay, how it's delivered. Maybe you can use the term container if you want. So when we're discussing a model use, it has its own data and metadata, but also I just highlight a couple of things which overlap with the dictionary item. Of course, it's much more than that overlap between a model use and and the dictionary item. I just highlighted a couple here. Like a summary description within a model use is a summary description for a dictionary item for that model use. It's also for extended descriptions. So we're discussing these blocks, knowledge blocks, and this, you can see here there's 5 types. So a competency item, dictionary item, model use, a defined role, learning unit. The idea is that by defining each on its own and making sure it is accurate, it is defined in a rigorous way, it is semantically structured in a semantically structured enough, we'll be able to connect it to other blocks. So this is an example of a competency item, and a competency item is what you would define like the ability of someone. So, for example, you can ask a question. You have the ability to generate a bill of quantities from a well-structured, BIM model, or it could be defined as an activity. Go ahead and generate. It could be in a task list, or it could be an outcome. But that's called a competency item. And inside that competency item, you'll see there is something called bill of quantities here. That bill of quantities is actually a dictionary item. A model use also, you could see here, model-based clash detection and cost planning. These two are model uses. They are knowledge blocks, but they're also dictionary items. And within that dictionary item, there's lots of competency items needed to deliver them. And if we're defining roles or functions, any function you can think of, doesn't have to be a formal role or anything. You could define it using a mixture of information uses, model uses, document uses, data uses, and inside that a multiplicity of competency items, and inside that dictionary items. So when you're building a role or a learning unit, it is these blocks, although they need to be understood, managed, integrated on their own, they also need to be built using these different blocks, which are a little bit more understandable than saying frameworks and models and taxonomies and classifications. They are defined in a way that any informed practitioner would be able to interact with a dictionary item, or interact with the model use, or interact with the competency item without needing to understand all the frameworks and models and all these conceptual structuring in the background. So this is the main principle of the knowledge blocks. And knowledge blocks on their own also are still not usable on their own. They are better understood. One could look at them and say, oh, now I can build a tool from it. So they are ready to become the material for building a tool. And this is very important. So this is one of the things that the initiative focuses on. It's not about building tools. It's about providing the components for building tools. Okay, so that's really the main task. Of course, we will build exemplary tools for people to see what could be done. Sometimes nobody would want to build these tools, so we build them. But the idea is it's about delivering these blocks so others could build tools, whether they are a series of competency items and hundreds or thousands of them, hundreds of dictionary items, more than 70 model use, etc., that could be combined into tools. A couple of tools here. This is like a static tool, an old tool, still one of the most used templates, and downloaded. translated from the initiative, the maturity matrix, which is really intended for organizations to self-assess their level of capability maturity. And as you know, this is built on top of models about and framework about capability maturity, models about capability, and models about maturity. And then you've got taxonomies related to the competency or capability sets, and you've got lists, which a simple list about maturity, which at the same time as a model, etc. So even when you see a tool, you are looking at the distillation of these conceptual pieces into something that a practitioner or a researcher could take and use. So either a researcher will take and build new conceptual pieces, or for their own use, or a practitioner will take that and create their own tool or use a sample tool. Another type of tool, more dynamic, is the online platform. We have this is our first, which is the vimdictionary.com. I'm hoping many people already know what that is. If not, please go and have a look. And if you remember from defining the dictionary item as a knowledge block, we've got all these set A and set B defined in that dictionary item, and you will see them now when you go to dictionary.com. You will see them presented to you as a page. You don't really care that it was a block and how it's connected, and what's the connections between them. What's important for the end user is to search for something or explore something, find information, learn from it. And if we have time today, I'll show you a little bit more extensive example of this. But what you see in front of you is just one page, which has a summary description, which has in the version you have the extended description, you have the rich media here, all the things that you can see when defining the knowledge block. So really, here you can see the tool built using one time. Here it's representing, in this page I'm showing you, it's representing a dictionary item. But there's other pages which represent a model use, which will have embedded dictionary items and embedded competency items as well. Knowledge flows or activity flows or workflows are how we connect how we connect knowledge. Meaning when for knowledge to become more usable, it needs connection of concepts and their relations. It's not enough to say this is a set of terms. It's not enough to say this is a model use. You have to explain, you have to describe, explain, and test how these are generated and also how they can be used. And really, to express expertise, there's nothing clearer than using flows. And flows are kind of models, if you wish. And as you all know, and just give you a couple of examples generated in the initiative. So, for example, here you see an activity flow diagram for generating something we refer to as extended descriptions. Extended descriptions are, as you've seen in the dictionary tool, are the encyclopedic entries for a dictionary. So the dictionary has lots of terms. Each one of them will have a summary description, but we have also a strategy, and it's online. You can download it, can read it, to develop 500 of these terms, to include an extended description, to add videos and activity flows and etc. And here you'll see the flow to do that. How are we gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? Etc. So part of the initiative is to generate lots of these. And actually, just if I put my consultancy hat on for 5 seconds and say, if you go to a company, you want to assess their capability maturity, and the readiness, even for digital transformation, the most telling thing, the most telling aspect, artifact you can find is their process flows. If they have them, if they're updated, if they're well connected, etc. So this is a lesson learned by the initiative, and everything we do is based on activity flows which are continuously updated, combined into strategies that are available openly for people to see, to improve upon, etc. Another example here from another project, which is I'm going to discuss briefly later on, which is a project for software classification. This is a new project we just started. It's about delivering an online module to help practitioners identify the most suitable tool for a specific digital deliverable or target. Also includes the development of guides, etc. Another example of flows are, these. This is coming from, it's connected to multiple things, including model uses. But the reason why I'm showing you here this third example is that when we're developing these activity flows, it's not really useful to have one single flow covering the whole initiative, or one single flow covering a project, or even one single flow covering a micro project. What about one single flow covering a model use is even not feasible. So the way the initiative tries to reduce complexity is by first delivering or developing adaptable flows, but also by making these activity flows modular, meaning you could start at a certain height, if you say conceptual level, and then you can drill down to different levels. So it's really based on a combination of business process modeling and notation, and case management modeling and notation. We haven't gone too much into UML yet, but the way we're progressing, it will be a combination of all this in order to describe the problem, identify the solution, describe it again, and explain it and test it. We need all these workflows. But in order, even if we find a solution, that solution could not be presented in a complex way. So that's why it's important to also develop a language for presenting a solution. And although this is a bit not BPMN, it's it's a bit more stylized, but this is partly intentional, partly not intentional. But the part which is intentional is we want to identify the shortest, the simplest way to describe, explain a complex problem, and by making this simplification through modularity, through sometimes stylization, through visualization, we're really enabling the practitioner and the organization to take these and to adopt them to their own use, improve their own workflows by changing things. So we're offering all this not only openly, but also we're providing the seed to generate new ones. And if we have time, I'll show you what I mean. So we covered the knowledge foundations, all these concepts, and then how they are distilled into blocks, and how the blocks are used to generate tools. And in order to generate tools, we have to develop lots of these flows, and within the tools also will be flows, and these activity flows could also be an end product on their own. We really have to present them, and this is just a knowledge view is like a database view. We're just all this information, knowledge, all these different connections, they need to be presented to different people in various in ways that suits them. So some of these could be publications, peer-reviewed publications, and this is if you want the bedrock of any knowledge foundation. So anything we do must start with some a framework or a model which has been published in a peer-reviewed journal. Maybe not so much peer-reviewed books anymore because of the speed. So journal is the preferred one at the moment, and then also peer-reviewed between brackets here resources, which are we have a second level of peer review, or a level, multiple levels of peer review. Certain things need to be peer reviewed externally by journals, and there's certain things are peer reviewed internally. So for example, a specific resource which you cannot really publish in a journal, but still needs to be peer reviewed by specialists. And we really, our community is is made, it is for specialists, or have so many specialists, but still we have to still do a peer review in order to make sure that a new classification or new taxonomy, new term connection are understandable, are well described, and can be tested, they are testable. And so really could be these types of publications or these types of resources. And one of the challenges is to move from disjointed publications. So really from publications by one individual or two individuals to a publication by a group within the community, like a project team or a micro project team. Many of these peer-reviewed publications or journals expect individuals to and loosely coupled teams to deliver a paper. We also, it's challenge for us to work on these two levels, and this is one of the things that we're trying to improve upon. Currently, we have lots of people with their own peer-reviewed journals and thesis, etc. And one of the challenges is to find ways also to jointly publish community work. Another, this is just a couple of examples of resources. So this is one of them is a competency table. This is the 201. You can find it online. People can use it to develop functions, roles, learning materials. It's many things could be built based on that. Another one, the model use table. Knowledge views also, could be outlets and channels, because this knowledge is intended to accelerate the digital transformation of the industry. So really, you have to reach the industry, and to reach the industry, you have to define it. What's the industry, what's academia, and how do you get to them? And really, and this is a major challenge and a major set of activities within the initiative, and it has its own project, as you will see, in order to identify the best ways to reach the audience. So it could be through knowledge sharing outlets, as we call them. Like today, you're watching a video on YouTube. It could be an industry blog. It could be a research focused blog, with higher conceptual content. It could be through our website, the BIM initiative, bimexcellence.org website, which is really a content management system. It's a WordPress with lots of plugins in the background. So in order to deliver the knowledge for someone who wants to start from web page, and then from there, we could take them to a video, we could take them to a blog, we could take them to a dictionary, etc. But also, it's about connecting with different groups through different social media channels. And as you all know, each channel will have its own type of audience. The audience in Facebook is different. The one in LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter, of course, there's hundreds of these. We're focusing, of course, on the main ones, but it depends really on the goals. What are the goals of the initiative? If the goals of the initiative is to help practitioners, we could pull some practitioners to us, but also we have to find these practitioners and push something to them. I'm just going to give you an example of one of these channels, which is the Instagram channel, which is launched nearly 2 months ago. And this is a simplification, a visualization. It is kind of an attraction of a younger audience to interact with the BIM dictionary, to look at the term, read it, benefit from it, hopefully, and really, not only to like it, but to go to the dictionary and investigate more the topic. One term will lead to another, and from one term to another, you go to a list. From a list, you go to a resource, etc. And Instagram has a very different you can see from the age, for example, bracket, which is very different to the people who are subscribed to the BIM Think Space, for example, or the people who visit the bimexcellence.org website, etc. And there's lots of Brazilians, as you can see. So after explaining the basics about the initiative and the knowledge structure, the conceptual hierarchies, etc., and the knowledge blocks, etc. So all this really, they are all intended to deliver outputs, as mentioned, tools and templates and this, etc. In order to deliver these, using more than one person, the efforts, combined efforts of more than one person, we really need to combine these efforts through a project or a micro project. Now, I don't think I have time today to explain the dynamic nature of these projects. I'll try, but the principle in the initiative is that we have, this connected knowledge as mentioned. Also, we have connected projects. So each project feeds into the other. We have the project A BIM dictionary. There's a project specific for knowledge organization and sharing, which takes care of, I'm going to explain this in a little bit more detail. One project focused on competency and learning, performance improvement within organizations, macro adoption at market scale, and integrated information. These are the top level projects, and they are interconnected. So every project will feed into another. You will see it in the things I've already presented. You'll see it in the things I will present also remaining of this session. So if we look at each of these projects, high-level projects, we have only 6 level, high-level projects. BIM dictionary project. I've already covered that. What's the the purpose of that? Well, it's really to host the knowledge blocks, the dictionary items, to make them browsable, to make them findable. To connect them semantically. As we improve our database structure as well, we'll add more things. But it is really our knowledge base. So this is where the starting point to connect to all other projects. So you can go from there and go to other projects. It is where you start with the term and its description, from its extended description, from its connection, and then you go to other places. It's also another practical reason is that it's a repository that we could connect to. If you if we generate whether it is any kind of digital resource, it will use the dictionary to define terms in different languages. Currently, there is close to 800 terms, 771 terms. These will continuously increase. There is, of course, a saturation level which we haven't reached, but we will reach it in the next couple of years. I mean, it's a long-term project, of course. Currently, I have 25 languages. Some of them have finished translating more than 700 terms. Others are, still in the first couple of sets. But we have 25 languages, and there's more languages also being now developed. There's the BIM dictionary, because it connects everything. Nearly, not all, but nearly every volunteer who works in the initiative has some kind of role within the dictionary. So either they are an editor of a language, a co-editor, or a reviewer. Some of them are authors for extended descriptions or for model use templates within the dictionary, but nearly everyone has some kind of role within the BIM dictionary. So that's a BIM dictionary. We can, I'm hoping that you know it already, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. But if you want, please, there is it's quite intuitive. You can hopefully you can use it, you can create lists, etc. And over time, we will add more modules, for searching for software tools, for many things. The second project, we have 6 projects. So project B is about knowledge organization and sharing, and you'll see, most of the things I presented today fall under this project. But the idea is that, under this project, it's just about taking all this unstructured information and just making them more structured, or fully structured for use by computers, or semi-structured for use by computers plus machine learning and humans, etc. So the idea of this project is to organize and organize more, because if knowledge is our backbone, is our skeletal that everything works around, it's not the project structure, it is more the knowledge structure. So we have to continuously structure, restructure, combine connect, and it's never-ending work to continuously organize and reorganize knowledge. And this could take many forms, whether it's a mind map, complex concept map, etc. Doesn't matter, but everything needs to be kept connected. Okay, uh, if it's not connected, then the BIM initiative won't work. It's not like we have 6 projects and each project has their own deliverables and they can go in their own way. That would be failure if that happens. So it's very important. It's a key deliverable. It's a key responsibility to keep everything connected. Knowledge is organized in different ways. It's just a simplification. So resource numbering, we have a specific way of numbering resources, and now in order to help in knowledge dissemination and sharing, providing some citation help on pages within resources. Now the resources carry a digital object identifier for easy reference, and in order for version control, you can always go back to older versions, and we have versioning and archiving. We're using an open public library, so it's not just us hosting materials on our content management system, putting them on an open public library where it provides us with our DOI, etc. I've covered many of these things, but this is the project which really identifies the need for knowledge organizations, manages the process of organization, and continuously improve it over time. And it also, you could see this expressed, if you go to bimexcellence.org, you will find that we also have, in addition to the dictionary items, in addition to the conceptual ontology, you also have topics, and these topics are used in different ways. They could be used to identify, maybe to organize dictionary items within the dictionary. So you could search by standards. So show me standards. That's a a kind of topic inside the dictionary. Or we use these topics in order to organize assessments. So we say this assessment will cover these topics, and etc. We have, as I mentioned, 6 high-level projects, but we have tens. Eventually we'll have hundreds of micro projects, and there is a list online. You can go and search and see its status. And the principle of projects and micro projects really deserves its own session, because we try as much as possible to keep that as organic as possible. So we only have 6 fixed ones, but micro projects subdivide very easily and recombine quite easily as well. And maybe if there's time, I'll explain this in more detail. So we need to keep this as dynamic as possible. And of course, part of organizing knowledge is organizing volunteers, our valued colleagues who are putting their time and effort to help and to improve the digital transformation in our industry. And over time, we will combine these with their competency profiles in order to identify the most suitable micro project for them, etc. So everything is interconnected, and this project is what keeps them connected. Knowledge sharing, already covered this. We have an open forums. You can go to forums.bimexcellence.org. We videocast and podcasts. We have only one podcast at the moment. There is a series planned soon. Social media already covered it. So this is the project really which manages all this. 2 projects already predefined, but currently they have not been launched. So this project has not been formally launched. This is about digital competence, and about assessment of competence, about using competency-based learning. So really, if we believe, if we agree that digital competence is nowadays is a necessity for any discipline, profession, within our industry and outside an industry, and digital competence already could branch into many fields and many multiple levels, but the essence is, nowadays, especially now, after this pandemic, you can see the importance of digital competence, and the idea that we need to connect digitally before connecting physically. And so the BIM initiative will focus a lot on this. It has developed, it will continue to develop, it will maintain a competency-based language to be used in assessment. We already use it in assessment for macro. we will assess it. We'll continue. We will deliver more competency-based learning material in the future. So this project is not launched. I can't really cover it in any detail, but the general thing is that language, this competency-based language, will be structured, semantically structured. It will be, of course, modular, connected, and will be kept open. Another project which hasn't been launched formally yet, and this is also part of the principles of the initiative. So it started with 6 projects, even if there's nobody working on these projects, because it's the nature of the thing. It has to be connected. So if you need to connect it, you have to at least from the beginning understand what are the connections, meaning at a high level, and from the beginning, the idea is that we need a strong terminology. We need strong knowledge foundations. We need strong competency-based language and strong performance assessment and improvement within organizations. So this project will focus on building the digital capability maturity of organizations. So again, when you use the term BIM here, it means any kind of digital transformation, enabling sets of technologies, processes, and policies, etc. The 5th project is macro adoption project. This is also, it has been launched. It's active. It has delivered quite a lot of really things that has been, of benefit, hopefully, to policymakers. I haven't mentioned all the colleagues, here because there's 130 plus of them, but you can see under each project there's names of the people who are co-leading the project. So macro adoption project, we've done some benchmarking, and this was published, and then we've done some detailed studies in 2017, 2019, and now we are really reviewing everything. We're developing new key adoption indicators. We will be launching very soon, macro adoption studies to cover many countries at the same time. So really, we learned quite a lot from our just these experiences of the past nearly 5 years, and now we're refining the assessment method, the strategy, for assessing, macro adoption topics, and we're developing better tools to capture that. And this would be launched very soon. Already, the strategy has been finished. It's now circulating within the community, and it will be published hopefully either this week or next week. Examples of things that have produced. This is just a small example, like with studies in Ireland, which help develop their roadmap for adoption. In Spain, we've done a couple of these in Spain in collaboration with Building Smart Spain. We've done really good work with in Quebec, Canada, in collaboration with GBQ, Group BIM to Quebec. Which are one of our supporters as well, and they've published their adoption. They've done an assessment, and they've published their macro adoption report. You can download all these when you go to bimexcellence.org. You'll find lots of completed studies. You can download the reports, and you'll see that our affiliates include universities, communities of practice, like many names that you will recognize. The 6th project and the final project in the set is the Integrated Information Project. This is the most ambitious project. Okay, this is a project that will include tens of micro projects. It's about information flow. It's about information transformation. It is, if you haven't had a chance to read the journal paper, please, I invite you to have a read. It is offering, let's say, an alternative way of looking at information flow, information management, information transformation and exchange. And for each of the things introduced in this paper, this will include it's already, many of these already published within the blog, or going to become a resource, or become a modular tool. You will see there's lots of these, packages that need to be delivered in order to enable the delivery of open access or even open source integrated information platform. So we want to deliver the blocks needed, all these classifications and taxonomies, or hopefully even the ontology needed, like the formal ontology needed to deliver an open access integrated information platform for managing information across an asset lifecycle. Please have a read. Inside this project, multiple micro projects and work packages, two which are already launched, and they have their, some deliverables and strategies published. The model use template, I've already discussed that. You could also see one of these templates in the dictionary. If you go to clash detection, you will find there is a really an extensive set of, lots of information, rich media, activity lists, competency items there. So the model use templates macro project, also the software classification macro project already mentioned. So this is part of the integrated information project. Community. So we've got all these knowledge foundations, or we've got these projects to deliver these outputs, these tools, but who's doing all this? It's these people coming from these are specialists coming from 40 plus countries. Yeah, I don't know, they're more than 40, but 40 plus. They are professors, students. We've got Professor, Regina Rochelle from Brazil. We've got Mohammed Qasim from UK. We've got, Assistant Professor Eduardo. We've got Professor Bogdan from Albania. We've got lots of, not lots, but we have a substantial number of professors, with lots of master's students, PhD students, we have lots of practitioners. So the community is made of a combination of professors and students, practitioners and academics, and we are careful for the community to be not represented, because it's not about representation. It's more about capturing the expertise of different age groups, and to make it as equitable as possible and as distributed as possible and as flat as possible. Everyone who joins the initiative will have to agree to these principles. Meaning, I'm hoping these have already been understood in the presentation, like without naming them. But for any volunteer who has joined us or wish to join us, they need first to be understand that everything we do must follow these principles. We have to be committed to openness. I mean, there's no benefit in anymore, if ever there was, in doing things behind closed doors or behind, a copyrighted material that you can barely use. We have to be open. We have to offer things under, Creative Commons. This is one of the first principles. Second principle, that everything we do must has a structure or must interconnect. And the first section covered these knowledge structures. I know they're not easy to understand at the foundations level, but most people will understand them at the block level. When they see the blocks, when they see the dictionary items, when they see the model uses. Everything is peer sourced and peer tested. We are a group of peers. I mean, 130 people. We are specialists, but at the same time, we do our internal review. We do cross review between projects, but also for higher level structures like frameworks, they have to be peer tested through publication and through testing within organizations. And we have to be committed to open innovation. It's across boundaries, across borders. So again, this is the principle that we should not focus on local issues first. We should focus on common issues first and then localize. We have to accept that by being innovative and staying open, everyone benefits. We have to be not only working in a single language in a single country. We have to work across these language and geographic boundaries. And every volunteer who joins any of these projects, they have to sign the Excellence Manifesto. We do not work with people who do not sign the Excellence Manifesto. The manifesto is open for anyone who would like to sign it. So, about detailing the general principles, about being open, about everything being educational, about being visual and reliable, etc. You can visit, bmexcellence.org and see the manifesto. If you agree with it, please put your name, add your name to the many names there. Community mentioned, last time we counted maybe a month ago, 134, but we projected to grow in 2021 to 175, maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit less. And this is really driven by the projects that are ready for launch. And for a project to be ready for launch, it needs to have its first, its conceptual structures ready. It needs to have the right leader or co-leader in order to launch a project, meaning someone passionate about it, have specialty in it, has the right competency profile. But based on what we know, based on the micro projects, we think we're gonna have within our community at least 170 people. But this is not the amount of people who are going to be contributing. These are the people who are actively working within the community. If we just do 50 or 100 extended descriptions, that's another 100. Whether they join us or they just contribute the material, that would be up, of course, every collaborator, every affiliate. Finally, and this is very short, meaning maybe I took too much time, I don't really know. Our challenges, our internal challenges, and then we can have a discussion. So what are the challenges? So there's lots of benefits of doing things through a community. We are independent, of course, dependent as possible. We could focus on specific problems without being guided by a policy or a standard or a funding body. We could connect our work over long periods of time, which is really not acceptable within certain institutions. So many of these projects take multiple years to deliver. The aim, by addressing these challenges, there's one thing that we're always careful, and this is a challenge. How to keep the autonomy of community players, of community researchers without chaos. You don't want also over-regulating, what being delivered and by whom. So this is why the knowledge structure need to be robust, but the project structure flexible. So in order to enable autonomy, to deliver specific things, but without having conceptual chaos. We want to organize, we're trying to organize, but we want to avoid bureaucracy, and it always creeps, on us, and anyone who's done any community work will know that this will kill the community. It will, if we started having formal roles and, 3 stripes and 2 stripes and, a golden pen and a partner and affiliate, whatever, this is every time, for a small period of time, this is the how the initiative is organized need to be optimized, need to be improved, so that everything could be integrated without bureaucracy. One of the challenges is how to motivate people without financial rewards, and it's actually proved easier than expected. And this is really comes down to who you select, or who you vet, or who comes in, who wants to come in, who eventually works with others, about their motivation, about their passion. It's of course a challenge, but that's one of the easier challenges. Growth, meaning we have so much things we want to do, but there are certain dynamics. Many of you will be aware of the size limitations for community work, and this is why keeping the project subdivision flexible is very important. But it's a challenge. There's things that need growth, but still we have to keep these flexible community dynamics. So that's really a major challenge. Research rigor. We because of the variety of people working within the community, all specialists in their own fields, some of them in a couple of fields, it's very important to keep the research rigor to a level which could be published in a peer-reviewed journal, some minor additional work. So I'm not saying that every resource is being treated like you would treat the journal papers submitted, but we try to keep it as close as possible to that. because rigor is very, very important to build on. If for nothing, if you want rigor in building a piece that you can depend on and building another piece on top or next to. Another challenge is to continuously knit knowledge. All this knowledge is being generated, and of course we have a skeletal, have these structures, but these, continuously knitting, continuously every new term coming in, it needs to be knitted with others. And so, for example, and this has been proved a challenge when the standards, the ISO 19650 suite of standards, have been published, which caused some grief because we had many things knitted, and then a set of terms came in, which most of them do not conflict, but there was maybe a few, maybe 10 or 15 terms which really we could not avoid but to calibrate our definitions, or not to contradict with published international standards. But it's an ongoing effort. It never stops, this knitting and meshing. Challenges how much communication is enough. You know how much emails, how many emails you receive and messages, and we have multiple channels, which we're trying to find the right balance. That's a really big challenge. Collaboration, competition. You need to keep competition in a community. It's not just about there's no competition. Competition is a healthy part of community work, but there is a fine balance between internal collaboration and competition. Finding that balance is very important. Simplification through is a top challenge, as mentioned before. How do we simplify without losing depth? Because there's so much depth and all this expertise from so many people, but we want to simplify it. We want to deliver it to industry in a way that they can use and reuse. In many ways, we simplify through visualization, so modularization, but still it's a challenge. So we have to always keep simplification, at the forefront of all discussions. Another challenge is how to reduce ambiguity without increasing complexity. So again, so if this is a different crowd to the one attending here, let's say, how much do you discuss structures and connections and all these things without really risking a massive increase in complexity, at least perceived complexity? But at the same time, if you don't discuss that, if you don't show it, if you don't, discuss all these things, people say, how was this structured? Where's the rigor here? I don't understand where this is going. So there's always this risk or this balance that is needed between showing and not showing. Showing too much will lead to complexity or perceived complexity, and the opposite is true. Not showing enough may be perceived as ambiguous. So that's it. That's a short presentation for the Vimeo initiative, what it's trying to do, how it is structured, around knowledge, brief discussion about its projects and micro projects, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. So thank you again for the invitation to present to you. I'm hoping you found some of what was presented useful to what you do, and I'm hoping that some of you also are encouraged to create their own initiatives. Join the initiative, if there is a motivation to do so, or there is also an availability in a specific project or micro project. But most importantly, it is an invitation to keep our research as open and as possible. Only through openness we will all learn from each other and could accelerate the digital transformation of our industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you very much. Even I understood the whole thing a little better now. So let's we have some questions here from the audience. I posted one here about learning material, but then you covered a little bit about this on your presentation. But Could you share with us what you're thinking about learning materials? What kind of format or educational level are are you thinking of?
Yes. Committed to competency-based language, which, depending on how we understand it, does not really differentiate between levels. Meaning, it is a structure for competence. For the it's the language, it's the competency items, it's the hierarchies of topics that need to be delivered across different levels. So, meaning you could have a topics which need to be delivered at undergraduate, bachelor level, or within even technical school maybe, or delivered as training materials within organizations, or as materials delivered by associations. The focus here is on the language, is on the material, is on the connectivity of the language and the material, so that different programs can be built around the same competency structure. So we will probably deliver some materials, sample materials for training or for learning, but the focus would be on how could we enable the generation of competency units faster and interconnected.
And you're thinking about printed materials or video or
Yeah, the media is separate to the taxonomy, meaning it is any material could be in principle delivered as a blog post or as a book. Or, of course, the complexity and the number of competency items covered within that would be much different. But as you will see from, as you know from the Vimeo initiative, we are testing lots of these things. So, for example, we're testing the delivery through videocast or podcast. We tested printing the BIM dictionary in Turkey. So there's a couple of volumes already released for students in Turkey to see if the printed dictionary is usable. We don't know yet. The focus is on the language. The media comes next or second.
Okay, thank you. We have a question here from Jacob. Can you hear?
Yep.
Read?
Yep. So thank you, Jacob. So the question is, just in case someone is listening to us, not viewing us, can you shed some light on auditing and reviewing processes for collaborative efforts? That's the first questions. We have the first step of auditing and reviewing is choosing the right people to work on a project. So really, you want to work with people who are rigorous in their work. Someone like Eduardo, for example. He will forensically inspect any topic and identify issues with it. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is to have a process of reviewing and auditing. Currently, within micro projects and to a larger degree within projects, top-level projects, a group of people work together and they produce a resource, and then that resource is reviewed by another person, like someone with some academic background, someone with a PhD or could be a professor who from outside that project to review that material. And then publicity is a kind of review. So once you launch a draft version of a list or a taxonomy and make it available openly and say, please, help us in improving this, that's like another kind of review. This is, of course, for the materials who do not require or do not warrant us submitting it to a journal paper. Some materials, high-level materials like frameworks, must be submitted to high-level journal papers first. That's the first question. I hope the answer was satisfactory. How much discussion do you have among the large community? This is also a challenge. We have lots of discussions within teams of, within project teams. So, for example, the macro adoption team that myself and Eduardo and Professor Qasim and Danny Murgia from, and Christiani. We meet every couple of weeks now because we are developing our strategy. And once that strategy was finished, it was sent, out for internal review, and it came back with lots and lots and lots. Eduardo could attest to that, of corrections. It's very rigorous internally. We ask people when they're reviewing to review it as if they are reviewing a journal paper. Okay. But it is as close as possible to a journal paper. It's not the same rigor. Okay, I'm not claiming that. Then we have community meetings. We have one every couple of months where we discuss a specific topic and people can comment on it, etc. We have forums. We have you name it. We used to have a Slack channel, now we moved to forums. So there's quite a lot of discussion, but could be improved. The third question about how do you engineer the ontologies. Okay, we are currently, and we have been looking for someone for a long time to help us with ontology, to move our ontology from a conceptual ontology to a more formal ontology. Okay, some of the things we are developing require the delivery of a solution suitable for semantic web. That level of work. Lately, a couple of people have started discussions about this, so hopefully we'll now receive help in defining our ontologies. But anyone listening to us who has experience in transferring conceptual ontology into an ontology that can be used in a semantic web, please, send us an email, a message. We need you.
Okay. Let's skip to Johannes' question, and then we'll talk about the dictionary.
Yep. Thank you, Johannes. What role does BIM Dictionary play in connection with building smart data dictionary? The focus is very different of the BIM Dictionary from that of the good work by Building Smart International. We are focusing on explaining common concepts, mostly related to process, to the practitioner. We are not covering products. We don't have a schema like the Building Smart Data Dictionary. They are complementary, meaning and this is also a call, we stop short. If you want, if you imagine, and this is really just an abstraction, if you imagine the work we do, it fits in 2 layers only: knowledge management or engineering, organization sharing, and now because of Project F, information management, flow, and transformation. We don't cover data flows and data streams and product data. We don't, but we are very close to them. So anyone going from that layer up to information management and knowledge management, we could connect with you. But we do not we do not do what Building Smart does. They're good at what they're doing. We want to support them. We just want to complement them.
Let's move back to one of the Jacob's questions about the dictionary.
Yep, there are lists of most search terms and concepts in the dictionary. What are the upcoming concepts that have not yet been verbalized from your perspective? Okay, thank you, Jacob. We actually now will be focusing on 2 things. One is increasing the depth of knowledge that you can find when searching and browsing a dictionary, and this will happen by adding extended descriptions, and so that's the one I've showed, but also there is a much more extensive version if you go and look at the model use template, for example, in a dictionary. And the second is to increase through our topic list. So we have 42 topics, could become 45, etc. But we are looking through the project A3 is called. We're looking for topic curators. So, example, one of the topic curators, it was about mixed reality, and he suggested 25 topics. These 25 terms within a topic, and then these descriptions were developed, and then they were reviewed, and they were published. Now, another topic. So our growth, if you want to see the growth in the dictionary, please look at the topics list. If you go to bimexcellence.org and look at the topics list, you will see where then the terms will follow these topics. So it could include PLM, GIS, agile, lean, target value design, etc. All the things that really affect, encourage, improve digital transformation within the industry.
Okay, there's a final great question about policy making.
Yeah, actually, Eduardo could answer that, but yeah, so it's about we want to enable policymakers to either develop or improve their strategies and roadmaps. So, and this is really what we've been doing in the past couple of years through presentations, through helping, doing assessments, providing templates for roadmaps, and these are available already. So our aim is to distill from assessing multiple markets what are the most recommended actions that a policymaker can take in order to encourage adoption and diffusion of tools and processes and policy and protocols. So yes, we have a role in this, but our role is in understanding, benchmarking, developing guides and templates, and stopping. That's really it.
All right, we are already 1 hour and 40 minutes in this presentation. Yeah, besides my delay.
Yeah.
So, Bilal, thank you very much. I think this is a great opportunity for publicizing all the work. I personally had another question, which is how percentage of your personal time do you dedicate to the initiative? Because there's so much thinking behind this and so much work, and we know you are the driving force behind all this and the mastermind that
with a cat, yes,
divides all this. So
yeah, no, it started as an individual effort. Okay, it's no longer an individual effort. I mean, there's the efforts of all these 130 and more people. The time spent is, to be honest, it's a time well spent. The type of work I do is complementary to this. So even when I'm thinking about work, it is aligned with the initiative. When I'm thinking about initiative and trying to resolve a connection or a conceptual structure, it actually helps the work as well. So it's aligned, and this has been a personal strategy from the start. Meaning, if you ever want to do research, this is a recommendation for young researchers. Only do it in something that you're really passionate about and you use in your work. Do not follow shining objects. Do not look, what's now really people are discussing and let me do research about it. Follow what you like to research and what you will need in your work, and then they will be aligned.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Bilal. Thank you all the viewers. We have another final technical session later on. So see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.